take a timeout.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Kenny, and welcome to ESPN Classic's Top 5 Reasons You Can't Blame, a series that takes a fresh look at sports personalities who are remembered largely for their mistakes, controversial moments, or questionable decisions. By 1987, marvelous Marvin Hagler had already gained legendary status. Long denied a shot at the middleweight title, he ruled his division ruthlessly once he got it. 12 brutal title defenses, with only Roberto Duran going the distance. A month shy of his 33rd birthday, he stepped into a super fight against Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, Leonard was one of the best fighters of all time, but he was a much smaller man. He was a true welterweight and hadn't fought in nearly 3 years. It was widely viewed at the time as a dangerous mismatch. Hagler, a 4-1 favorite, going into the ring at Caesar's Palace. Before we count down the top 5 reasons you can't blame Hagler for losing to Leonard, let's look back at the events surrounding the controversial night in Las Vegas.
He wanted to destroy you, destruct the opposition.
For each fight that Marvin prepared himself for, he got himself worked all up into a rage.
He don't punch at his target, he punches through his target.
Stiff right hand by Hagler. Hard left hand. Lee goes down.
He was going to fight hard. He was going to fight brutal. He was going to do what he had to do to make sure that title went with him.
Hamshoulders against the ropes. Takes another right hand.
He didn't shoot off his mouth. He just came to fight, period. That's it.
He was the type of guy that if one guy was running 5 miles before the fight, he was running 6. One guy was doing 100 push-ups, he was doing 101 push-ups.
If he'd have been the iceberg that the Titanic collided into, the Titanic would have gone 20 miles out of its way to get around.
In 1985, a massive collision occurred between middleweight champion Marvin Hagler and former welterweight champion Thomas Hitman Hearns.
Get your popcorn and your beer and don't move out your seat because this fight can end early.
Hagler was right. The bout lasted just 59 seconds short of 3 rounds. But in those 8 minutes, 2 of the most lethal punchers of their generation put on a matchless display of ferocity and courage.
This went toe-to-toe. There was no respect there. Tommy landed his best punch right on Marvin's kissing. And it just bust his head wide open. But Hagler said, I will not let you stop this fight on the cut.
There's blood all over Marvin Hagler's face.
So when the doctor says, can you see? I says, I ain't missing him, am I? So they let me loose.
Takes another right. Hearns in deep trouble again. Hearns is down.
At this point, Hagler is almost as invincible as Tyson.
In 1986, Hagler knocked out John the Beast Mugabe. It was his 12th straight title defense, and the division was emptied of worthy challengers. Into the void stepped Sugar Ray Leonard, who had retired because of a detached retina. Immediately, a life-and-death drama ensued.
In those days, a fighter with a detached retina is as much as saying they have AIDS in our world today.
The fight was scheduled for April 6, 1987 in Las Vegas.
The build-up to the fight was not who's going to win the fight. The build-up to that fight was, is Ray Leonard going to die in the ring? Is Marvin Hagler going to kill Ray Leonard?
Hagler hadn't lost in 11 years.
There was a perception that Ray was just a pretty boy.
I don't think I've ever seen an athlete in better shape than Marvin Hagler.
He was a southpaw, he was tough. A lot of people ducked him.
I never thought Leonard was going to fight him. For God's sake, I mean, why would you want to go in the ring with Marvin Hagler?
Ray Leonard said that the first round is going to be the most important round of the fight. And here we go.
Marvin Hagler came out against Sugar Ray Leonard fighting right-handed. He was a southpaw.
Hagler is not boxing as a southpaw. I just don't like that at all.
I was very nervous, but by him coming out as an orthodox, it gave me a chance to get my feet wet early.
He made Ray comfortable. He couldn't have made him any more comfortable than if he had drawn him a bath and gotten in his slippers.
He always said his motto was destruct and destroy. Well, he didn't have that mindset for this fight.
Nice combination by Leonard. And Hagler's talking to him. He's smiling at him.
Leonard won the first 4 rounds. So in a 12-round fight, you've given up a third of the fight. It's inexcusable.
Hagler didn't switch back to his natural left-handed style until the 4th round. When he did, the momentum shifted in his favor.
Hagler backing up Leonard into the Leonard corner. Short right uppercut. Nailing him now, Tim.
Hagler really started to throw some meaningful punches.
There were several times in that fight where I think Ray really got stung and really got hurt. But he just, was able to run himself out of it.
Looks like Leonard to me is going to nail Hagler instead of the other way around. Good move by Leonard out of that corner.
Even though Hagler was hurting Leonard, he failed to employ one of the techniques basic to his offense.
He was chasing Leonard. He never cut off the ring successfully on Leonard. He simply followed him around the ring.
He should have been fighting his own fight, taking it to him, hard, vicious punches. Marvin didn't make it a street fight. Marvin let Leonard fight his fight.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler looks very, very slow.
The next thing you know, he was missing wildly because he got frustrated. And he sure didn't look like Marvin Hagler.
Caught off guard by the challenger's speed, power, and endurance, Hagler could not recover to thwart Leonard's late rallies.
The winner by a split decision and new middleweight champion of the world, Leonard.
Marvin blew the fight more than Ray Leonard won the fight.
He takes a lot of the blame for losing that fight because if he had just done to his normal game plan and his typical routine, maybe he would have won the fight.
That loss is going to haunt him for the rest of his life because it was a winnable fight.
This is one of the greatest middleweight champions of all time. He should have been able to do more against Ray Leonard, but he couldn't.
You've just seen why Hagler is blamed for losing to Leonard. But before we present the top 5 reasons you can't blame Marvelous Marvin, here are a few that just missed the cut. We call them the best of the rest. The killer camera. A TV camera blocked the view of Hagler's corner team during the first 3 rounds of the fight. Hagler lost all 3 of those rounds on 2 scorecards.
Hagler lost the fight because he gave away the first 3 or 4 rounds fighting right-handed.
If you can't see, how can you comment on the fight?
One of the Petronellis grabbed those cords and yanked it as hard as he could. And at that point, they got the cameraman out.
Definitely a handicap for me. I had to bob and weave to try to catch the fight.
Our other best of the rest, head games. Leonard was a master at psyching out his opponent. Exhibit A, Roberto Duran in 1980.
Ray boxed him and tantalized him and matadored him.
He drove Roberto Duran so crazy that, what did he do? He quit.
Exhibit B. At a charity event in 1982, Leonard stung Hagler's ego with a surprise announcement.
Marvin was sitting there expecting Ray to announce that he was going to challenge him.
A fight with this great man, this great champion, could be one of the greatest fights in the history of boxing. But unfortunately, it'll never happen. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Was I cold to have him there, knowing fully well that I was going to say no? Yeah, it was pretty cold.
Marvin Hagler was fit to be tied. There weren't ropes strong enough to tie him down. He was hot.
He let Leonard get under his skin, and he was brooding, and I thought that took away from his ability to fight a more expressive, free fight.
The Beast, John Mugabe.
This guy just woke up, and he started attacking me, throwing big, hard punches.
John the Beast Mugabe was hitting him with some body shots that was hurting me.
When the 31-year-old Hagler struggled to defeat Mugabe, Leonard, a ringside commentator for the fight, took notice.
That's why Ray Leonard came out of retirement for the ultimate challenge of his career.
I noticed that Mugabe was outboxing Marvin for a while. And I felt that I was a better boxer than Mugabe.
Mugabe fight exposed him as a fighter who could be hit and hit a lot.
There was blood in Hagler's urine for days afterwards.
After his 11th round knockout of Mugabe, a dispirited Hagler contemplated retirement over dinner with Leonard.
I'd asked him, you know, what's next, and he kept saying, I'm not motivated. I cut too easy. It's just not in my heart anymore.
Marvin knew better than anybody that he wasn't the fighter he had been anymore.
I'm saying to myself, this would be the perfect time to fight him.
In their primes, Leonard never would have fought Hagler.
If you have trouble with John Mugabe, who could do nothing but punch, what are you going to do with a guy who can do everything?
1 down, 4 to go. Here is reason number 4. Bad management. Team Hagler was outmaneuvered during pre-fight negotiations with Leonard's camp.
Ray's management team totally bamboozled Hagler's team.
I had to give him everything he wanted. Oh, I'm not going to be able to fight this guy.
During the bargaining, Hagler reps Goody and Pat Petronelli focused on their share of the purse, while Mike Traynor and Leonard looked at the bigger picture.
The negotiation was first about the money, and he got a little bit more. Then the flip side was, you got to do something for us.
Leonard gave Hagler the most money and took the other 3 elements which would prove to be decisive. Size of glove, size of ring, number of rounds.
While larger gloves helped to take some of the sting out of Hagler's punches, a spacious 20 by 20 ring offered Leonard room to hit and run.
For me, it was about the ring size. And naturally, I'm a boxer, I want a big ring.
It wouldn't have been as easy for him to get out of the way of those punches, and the whole history of boxing could have changed.
Leonard continues to put a lot of miles on those new sneakers.
Hagler's style was to fight in smaller rings. Hagler, in his determination to get the fight, agreed to the 20-foot ring.
Leonard's camp also won another major concession. Instead of 15 rounds, then the standard for title fights, Team Hagler agreed to a 12-round bout.
They didn't think Leonard could go more than 12 rounds.
12 rounds instead of 15 was crucial.
Leonard had had only 2 piddling little fights in 6 years.
He's flying, Tim. Look at those arms.
Words cannot describe how exhausted I was.
He had to be held up at the final bell so that he would not look like a loser.
Had that fight gone 15 rounds, even Ray admits he would have been knocked out.
Who won that fight was Mike Traynor won that fight, and the Petronellis lost the fight.
A lot of the smaller things went to Leonard. Ultimately, they were critical in deciding the outcome of a very, very close fight.
Sugar wasn't so sweet. Leonard's questionable ring tactics were not penalized by the referee.
I remember Richard Steele clearly telling him to quit holding Ray, quit doing this.
I was telling Ray not to hold him, but Hagler wasn't protesting his holding. So, you know, I just let it go.
When the referee's breaking us apart, pulling us apart, I would throw a little uppercut. I kept doing that.
Richard Steele continues to warn Ray Leonard for holding, Tim. You know, after a few warnings, you have to do something about it.
When Leonard landed blows that appeared low, he did not lose any points.
Leonard's winding up with a windmill with one hand. The punch lands low, and the crowd goes crazy, and the ref lets it go.
If Marvin Hagler had hit Ray Leonard low, he would have been severely chastised and penalized.
The referee was completely out of his league that night.
Another punch after the bell by Leonard.
Well, you're talking about one of the most skilled fighters in history. No penalties, no nothing.
If they took points away from Leonard because of his hitting low and grabbing and all this kind of stuff, definitely it has an effect on the decision.
Have we begun to change your mind yet? If not, take a look at reason number 2. Bad judgment. The judge's split decision in favor of the challenger prompted cries of outrage.
The judges, the 3 blind mice. No question.
We have a split decision.
That wasn't a split decision. That was a shattered decision.
There was times that I watched this fight for the second, third, fourth, fifth time. I had to look down to see what score I gave. Some of the rounds were so close. I said, who did I give that to?
Judge Dave Moretti scored the fight 115-113 for Leonard. Judge Lou Filippo 115-113 for Hagler. But Mexican judge Jose Jojo Guerra scored it 118-110 for Leonard, giving 10 of 12 rounds to the challenger.
I think Sugar Ray made a very smart fight, and to me, he win by that margin.
There's no way that Ray Leonard won 10 of the 12 rounds.
This here official here, his name was Jojo Guerra, should be put in jail.
Jojo Guerra of Mexico either did a dreadful job of judging, didn't know how to judge, or suddenly developed cataracts during the fight.
Jojo Guerra, of course, should have immediately gone for an eye check after that fight. I hope he did.
Although Leonard landed an average of 1 blow per round more than his opponent, Hagler complained that what Sugar Ray was throwing didn't qualify as punches.
He didn't do nothing. He wasn't scoring, you know what I mean? He was just pitter-patting. I mean, it was like a little girl.
Good flurry by Leonard.
He said, slow down, you little bitch. Fight like a man. He said, fight me like a man. I said, not right now.
He never hurt me at all in the fight.
Leonard was throwing more punches, but Hagler was landing more powerful punches.
That's all in right by Hagler.
I thought Hagler won, but I was overruled by 2 guys.
I blame the judges still, because I think they got it wrong.
Sugar Ray Leonard. His showmanship in and out of the ring overshadowed Hagler.
Sugar Ray Leonard was a product of not only his great talent, but the darling of the media.
Ray was articulate, and Ray was nice looking.
You're going to be back. One way or the other, you got to come back. As mayor?
Leonard rose to prominence after winning a gold medal at the 1976 Olympics. With Muhammad Ali nearing the end of his career, many saw Leonard as the new face of boxing.
Ray Leonard was a star the moment he won that gold medal.
When people didn't want to let go of Ali, but had to finally, they just transferred it to Leonard.
After I knock him out, I'm going to invite him over my house for dinner and show him the film and show him exactly how I knocked him out.
He had a tremendous media buildup. Hagler didn't have any of that.
Hagler was just a fighter, but Leonard had all the other pretty stuff. He had all the window dressings. You know, he wasn't just a department store, he was Macy's.
After a 3-year layoff during which his repaired retina was presumably healed, Leonard was the bigger story going into the Hagler fight.
Is he going to go blind in the ring? Is Marvin Hagler going to knock his eye out of his head?
He showed me that he was one of the bravest men to ever put on a pair of boxing gloves.
Sugar Ray Leonard was like a Muhammad Ali. His name got him a couple points before he even entered the ring.
Once the bell sounded, Leonard evoked shades of Ali, both in style and substance.
Right now, Leonard is floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee.
Clearly, he understood the idea of showmanship being part of winning a fight.
He had such a colorful, flamboyant style. Ray could throw 20 punches and not one land, and the crowd was just going crazy.
A right by Leonard.
Marvin had Ray pinned on the ropes. Ray backed him up with a barrage of punches. The fight was won. People stopped watching the fight and started watching Ray Leonard.
People were so mesmerized that Leonard was even in the fight that they couldn't see what Hagler was doing.
Tactically, Ray picked up something from Muhammad Ali where he would fight the last 30, 45 seconds of a round to steal the round.
I said 30 seconds before the bell rings, yell 30 seconds because I would win that round by throwing more punches.
And Leonard Curry against Hagler.
So the judges, that's the last thing they see, so they put it down on the scorecard.
He certainly gave the impression he had won that fight.
Late in the fight, Leonard's arrogance was an extension of his corner, headed by Ali's former trainer, Angelo Dundee.
Come the 12th round, Angelo's standing up on the apron as Ray goes out. Go get him, you're champ, you're champ. Go get him, champ.
That's right, I said, new champ. And Ray got up, he put his arms up. Great moment.
As the fight was winding down and people were on their feet screaming and yelling, Leonard was waving to the crowd while the fight was going on.
Look at Ray Leonard, what a cocky kid.
If they fought a trilogy, Hagler would win 2 out of 3 fights. But on that night, that was Ray Leonard's night.
By the winner, by a split decision, and new middleweight champion of the world, Sugar Ray Leonard.
You can't blame Hagler for losing that fight because Sugar Ray Leonard would not have lost to anybody in his weight class, maybe of all time, that night.
So there you have it, the top 5 reasons you can't blame Marvelous Marvin Hagler for losing to Sugar Ray Leonard. Hagler wanted a rematch, but Leonard wasn't about to try that again. Hagler then became a true rarity among Hall of Fame boxers. He walked away and never went back. He once told me he didn't even work out in boxing clubs once he retired for fear of falling into old habits and lacing them up again. I'm Brian Kenny. Thanks for watching.